Some viewers may find this disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hi my loves, it's Destin Choice and you're watching Choice TV. So for today's video I want to get on here and discuss Iran's crazy and interesting obsession with black American people. Now I'm pretty sure most of you guys have been hearing a lot of these crazy rumors that black people are immune to a lot of the stuff that Iran is going to be doing, or if they even do anything or try anything to the American people. And essentially a lot of people basically assume that if they come to America and come trying to attack America, automatically black people are immune, because there's this new viral trend where a lot of people are spreading a lot of old clips and labeling it some shit that it's not, or some shit that's recent.
Listen, it was reported that Iran, I guess that's how you pronounce it. Iran does not want to hurt black people. All right? They said that black people get mistreated way too much, so they don't want to hurt black people.
Iran should be free! The people should be free! Down with the oppressors!
Don't be saying too much about Iran. They said that we're cool. They said that we are cool. They said African Americans have been through a lot. So don't say too much. Don't go over there and don't be doing too much. And you know, if you look like us and you wearing that camo, you better not be doing too much, because they said that we cool. They said that we cool. So I just want to let y'all remember that. Like,
there's also this new viral trend where a lot of black Americans are dancing to this Arabic song, where basically they're promoting the idea that black people are safe. Now, this trend is very weird to me because, first of all, the song isn't even in Farsi, it's in Arabic. Iranians don't speak Arabic, they speak Farsi. But the internet does what it does best, and they make a joke out of everything. So I'm not mad at this, I'm just a little bit confused. Well, Iranians had an interesting history with black Americans, and I wanted to get on here and discuss. They've essentially always been very infatuated, have always discussed black people and black Americans because they've always been infatuated with the history of black Americans and how they've never been seen as, you know, first-class citizens in a country that they themselves have built from the ground up. What's interesting about black Americans is black Americans weren't even seen as cool or trendy until the 1970s. When the 1970s came about, that's when black people were uplifted globally. That was the era where, of course, after Martin Luther King died, we, of course, got this huge black renaissance of black artists, black entertainers, black cinema artists. This was the era of the disco, soul, and jazz music finally getting mainstream respect and attention. It also was the era where we saw people like Diana Ross rise to the occasion, people like Jackson 5, The Wiz became a massive successful film, and the famous film The Roots, which was the first ever massive slave movie in America, got broadcasted and over 100 million Americans tuned in to watch it. This was also the era where a lot of black people moved to New York City and places like Los Angeles, the Bay Area, and even places like Washington, D.C. to elevate their careers and for better income and opportunities. Long story short, if you guys haven't heard, Iran is currently going through a crazy ass chaos right now because America and Israel cooperated in offing their leader. So basically people are afraid that if they see any jet or plane in the sky, automatically all bets are off, and they automatically assume that Americans are a big target, because right now it is an awkward time to be an American, because now we have this huge war, and now, even though it's not a confirmed war, we have a lot of shit going on in terms of gas prices going up and a lot of travel bans and a bunch of other things, such as people being stuck by the thousands in different countries because of Israel and America's cooperation offering the leader, who we all know is Khamenei. Khamenei, who was the supreme leader of Iran before he recently passed away a couple weeks ago, Khamenei made it very clear that he always had a soft spot for black Americans because he felt as though that they were already disrespected and mistreated in their own country, even though they built the country from the ground up. Back in 2014, Khamenei famously made a lot of remarks about the American system, saying, how can they criticize any country about being too extreme when they don't even treat black people equally? He famously said in this quote that they humiliate and they disrespect their black population. And this was something he said back in 2014 during the Eric Garner situation and the rise of Black Lives Matter. Also, what's interesting about this is Iran has a strong history of discussing a lot of things that go on with black people and police brutality. If you go and watch Iranian news, they love playing clips of black people being assaulted, disrespected, followed around, and harassed. One of the biggest Iranian platforms, Press TV, which I did find a translated article, they have promoted and posted different articles of black issues going on, cops disrespecting black people, and police killings. They've posted a lot of these articles on their site. And guess what? A lot of these things have to be approved by Iranian leaders before they even go out. So a lot of this stuff is heavily encouraged, and it also sells. So this is the kind of media that a lot of people see in Iran. And it goes deeper, and there's a stronger history that goes way back as to why Iran is so vocal about black issues in America. Back in 1979, Iran had an infamous riot, protest, and revolution called the Shah Revolution, where basically Iran said, we're tired of this fucking king and queen, royal family shit. We need y'all the fuck out of our country because y'all harbor the wealth, y'all harbor the diamonds and jewels and oils, and you allow all these countries to siphon our resources and sell it and try to advance their countries instead of ours. So they tried to overthrow the royal family, and they said, we want them out of here. On top of that, it wasn't enough because the royal family has also done a lot of really fucked up things in Iran, where essentially they even have their own private police, where they hire their own private police system called the Savak, where basically they try to use their private police to intimidate journalists, intimidate activists, protest, and torture people that spoke out against the Shah.
In the dead of night, Savak officers stormed the homes of activists, dragging them from their beds. Some were never seen again, their families left without answers. Those who survived the initial arrest were taken to Savak's infamous interrogation centers, where they faced relentless torture. Electroshock, beatings, and forced confessions became routine. The goal was not just to extract information, but to instill fear. The most significant blow came in the early 1950s, when Savak, with help from the CIA and MI6, dismantled the Tudeh Party's underground military network. High-ranking members were arrested, tried in secret courts, and either executed or sent to prison for life.
So the Shah was the royal family of Iran. And basically America, Russia, the UK, and all these European countries loved them because they said, come on, come to our country. You can have our oil, have our diamonds, have our jewels. Come on, you can have access to it. You know, just invest into our country, make our country more richer and more futuristic. For all we know, Iran could have been as big as Dubai if they hadn't thrown out the Shah. But the Shah was very sketchy because what happened was they were allowing so much Western influence to siphon resources. The infrastructure we have in a lot of countries such as Russia, their train system, a lot of that is because of exploiting a lot of resources in Iran. The resources that the UK has and England have with their train systems and their medical care, a lot of that infrastructure was built because of exploiting resources from Iran. And what did the people get? Absolutely nothing. So they said, you know what? The royal family, king, queen, whatever y'all need to get the fuck out of our country. But a lot of activists spoke out, spread awareness, told the whole country about how shady they were, how they were getting all types of money funneled to them and everything. And many of these activists were silenced. Some of them had their limbs chopped off. Some of them had their arms cut off. Some of them had their throats cut. A bunch of horrific things that this royal family allowed. And then Iran finally had enough. So they protested, they burnt down any flags of any allies of Iran, and they said straight up, if you're not with us, you're against us. Guess what happened? During the revolution, the Shah managed to actually escape the country before shit really got bad. And guess who housed the Shah? The entire U.S. government, the president, Jimmy Carter at the time. They housed that man, they protected his whole family, and they made sure he was good. But why? Political reasons. So basically, they decided to break into the U.S. Embassy and they kidnapped all the people that were diplomats working at the U.S. Embassy. And they made it very clear, we don't want Americans working here. We don't want Americans here. And matter of fact, we're going to hold these Americans hostage. Why did they do that? Well, back in the 1970s, we had Jimmy Carter as our president in America, and he essentially basically co-signed the Shah family coming to America, and he gave them things such as medical care, and he gave them housing and protection. So they managed to get the hell out of the country before the entire country exploded and decided that they wanted to protest against the monarchy and take control of the whole country.
TVI has unique pictures of the hostages inside the American embassy in Tehran. The student guards refused to let us see their captives, but they did agree to take pictures for TVI and to record their answers to our questions. The strain shows on the faces of the prisoners. That's the hostages' story. Almost around the clock, the embassy's main gate is the scene of a strange carnival, a carnival of hate.
Instead, we were taken to a small room in the heart of the embassy. Answering my questions, a girl who would only be identified as Mary. She told me of her hatred for the United States.
The United States is an imperialist power, and it's one of the characteristics of an imperialist power.
No casualties were reported. The Iranians burned a United States flag and denounced the U.S. government, saying they would stay until the U.S. sends the deposed Shah back to Iran. Earlier today, the Ayatollah Khamenei publicly criticized the U.S. for providing refuge for the Shah. His speech was viewed as a signal by the Muslim students to attack the embassy. Iranian radio reported that the hostages were safe and being fed.
Iran has had an anti-American rhetoric for many years, and they view America as imperialist. Now, most of us didn't pay attention in history class, so I'll sum up what imperialism is. It basically means a country can't mind their fucking business, so they try to literally impose and meddle in a country's business so they can control its resources, its military access, and its weapons for just in case they need to exploit them for particular reasons. And that's how Iranians viewed America at the time and still do to this day, always meddling in another country's business so that way they can get control and they can overpower the rest of the world by having the right alliances.
Of an imperialist power to plant spy dens and spy networks all over a country to control all its major political, social, economical systems, and to control these systems for its own benefits. So they work for its own profits. They exploited our natural resources. They exploited our oil.
But are you really saying that the people that you have taken prisoner, that you're holding in this building, are responsible for that in a way?
No, we don't say that the people directly. The system, the United States imperialist system is responsible for this. The hostages here, okay, they were just people handling the thing. We don't say that these hostages are innocent. No, they were the people through which these crimes, many of them, have been done. And yet,
but they're still hostages, aren't they? I mean, they were diplomats and they're now hostages.
Well, what does that have to... I mean,
that is the basis, if you like, of international anger.
But what about the crimes?
That international law has been broken.
What about international law in the case of the crimes that the Shah committed? In the case of 60,000 martyrs we gave in this country? In the case of 100,000 handicapped people we gave in this country? The Shah turned this country into a ruin. And of course, do the American people, do the Western people know this? No. And of course they don't understand then what happens.
They had to come here to get work. To try and explain their case to us, two of the students from the embassy took us on an expedition to the slums of South Tehran, a symbol for them of the corruption of the Shah's regime and of the economic imperialism practiced by the United States.
The American government, they've taken our oil.
In this urban dust bowl live some of the people who missed out on the Shah's dream of a new Iran.
America as not the American people, the American government. They have, so to say, they've licked the blood of these people in order to get their own technology improved. That's it. You see, we have taken the oil of this people.
Taken the petrol that Iran produces.
Oil, not only petrol.
I am afraid that they will pay the price.
You said at the press conference the other day, you said yourself that if there was an attack on this embassy, that you would destroy the hostages. Could you really do that?
Yes, we mean it.
Could you personally lift up a gun,
yes,
put it to the head of one of these people and kill him?
Yes, when I have seen a gun being lifted up, an American machine gun being lifted up, and killing my sisters and brothers in the streets. Of course, oppression and tyranny must be destroyed.
What about the question of what is going to happen to the hostages now? I mean, it's been said that there's going to be a trial. Do you want these people to go on trial?
Yes, these people, if the Shah is not returned. And
but he's not going to be returned, is he? Do you really believe that he'll be returned?
Yeah, we believe they should return him.
But that's another question. Do you believe he will be returned?
and they have to. If they don't return him, the trials will start, and the hostages will be tried.
Now, she sounds extreme, but when you sit down and think about it, I understand it. When a royal family has literally intimidated activists and protests, and thousands of people have gotten their limbs cut off and a bunch more just so they could stop saying bad things about the royal family, I understand her frustration. Also, keep in mind, most of the pharmaceuticals and most of the pills and medication we take come from oil. Without oil, a lot of the medications we have that have historically changed the world and have made a lot of companies and countries wealthy comes from the oil in the Middle East. And let's be real for a second. In the Middle East, more specifically Iran, a lot of them didn't have affordable healthcare. A lot of them had to pay for expensive ass healthcare out of pocket. So unless you lived in a big city or you were a part of an elitist family or had a lot of money, you were not getting healthcare. You had to pay for it out of pocket. You had to drive far away and a bunch of other stuff. And that's what they were fighting for. They wanted access to more affordable education. They wanted access to free healthcare. Now Iran has better public services. Now healthcare is accessible and affordable. Now things like education is affordable. Now a lot of Iranians are educated and speak English. Sadly, that wasn't the case back then. So, as we all know, there were 66 hostages, unfortunately, and Iran said, give us the royal family and we'll give you back these people. America famously said, absolutely not. And due to that, they were held for over a year and a half without seeing their families, going back to work, and much more. Tied up and trapped in a whole country that they weren't even fully familiar with.
It's vital to the United States and to every other nation that the lives of diplomatic personnel and other citizens abroad be protected, and that we refuse to permit the use of terrorism.
And because America refused, they were held for over 444 days. They were held from 1979 all the way to 1981 because America said, no, we're not going to give you the royal family. We just won't do it. So then, of course, things escalated.
The American embassy in Tehran is in the hands of Muslim students tonight. Spurred on by an anti-American speech by the Ayatollah Khamenei, they stormed the embassy, fought the Marine Guards for 3 hours, overpowered them, and took dozens of American hostages. The students want the deposed Shah returned to Iran for trial.
United States Marine Corps guards used tear gas to try to disperse the mob of Islamic students. But that wasn't enough.
And this became a huge global part of the world. Like, this became a huge conversation in America back in the 1970s and the 80s. And guess what? At this time, within the same week of the hostages being held, they released a few people. And they released about 13 people whom were all black. There were 13 people who worked in the U.S. Embassy, and they just so happened to be black people. Now, what's interesting is Iran did that just so they can find a way to say, see, these are not our enemies. These people are already oppressed in their own country, so why would we try to oppress them in ours? You know what? Let's send the black people back.
Sergeant Hughes, a clerk typist by trade, had been in Tehran about 4 weeks and was scheduled to leave in 5 days when Iranian students took over the embassy. In captivity, he thought about his wife and kids often, wondered whether he'd see them again, so he was naturally happy to be back home.
This feels good. I think anything ever feels good.
Hughes said that while a prisoner, his hands were often tied and his conversations with fellow hostages were limited, but overall his treatment, he claimed, was fair.
Food was food. You couldn't say no more than that about it, and it was okay.
Hughes says he was delighted to be set free, that after 16 days it was time to go, but he regretted leaving others behind.
That was a hard thing to do, to leave and know you're going to leave 49 of your, I had been there long enough to call them friends.
Hughes, who has been through several debriefings since his release, would not comment on the mood of his former captors, what President Carter should do, or even on what he could or could not talk about.
Now, what's interesting is this was a huge event. Back then in the 1970s, people were putting up yellow ribbons as a symbol of please send our people home. There were so many people who, were military wives who had to raise their children alone because people who were in the embassy at the time were kidnapped and they weren't even allowed to go home. And they were there for 444 days, literally like a year and a half. And no one ever talks about how the black people were released. He was one of the many black people that were released. And no one talks about this. Sometimes you'll watch history channels on TV, or, you'll watch interviews from people at the time who were in the military, and they never talk about the part where they released the black people.
The mob took 63 people at the embassy prisoner. Later, 3 more people were taken hostage at the Iranian Foreign Ministry, bringing the total to 66. 13 days later, the Ayatollah ordered the release of 13 hostages, leaving 53. Another hostage...
Khamenei, who at the time was the leader of the Iranian Revolution, made it very clear that the black people can go. They're not our enemies. What's interesting is at the time, he wasn't the supreme leader of the country. At the time, before Iran was even a Muslim, completely Islamic country, he made it very clear, we just want our country to be ours. We want to be independent. We're tired of these European countries like Russia and the UK and England and all these countries having a say in our oil.
Women are given great dignity in Islam, and the blacks have been oppressed in the United States. Great injustice was done unto them. They were under pressure in the United States. Thus they came here. We are doing this owing to the tenets of Islam. In return, we ask nothing for their freedom. We want the Shah. Carter must return him. The world's international law agree with this principle.
I ask you, as an American and a human being, talking to an Iranian and another human being, is there no room for compromise? Or is Iran now, in effect, at war with the United States?
No, there is no such war. If you mean it is a battle of nerves, it is Carter's doing. We are against war. We are Muslims. We desire peace for all. Carter does not allow this. Carter should put aside his so-called...
Black people were used as pawns to win an argument. My main thing is this. I understand they're releasing the black people because in their head they see it as, well, they're oppressed. We see them as victims. Why try to, fight imperialism? And they're, essentially, victims of imperialism as well. Now, I'm going to be real. Them speaking up on black issues and black people is not the same as them being in allegiance of black people. Yeah, they talk about police brutality. Yes, they talk about black issues and black this and black people go through this and America this. But that doesn't mean that they respect or care for black people. How does that benefit black people at all that they acknowledge and talk about it? That's cool that they spread awareness in their country. But in my perspective, I see it like this. This is just done to prove a point. They only care about talking to black people when it's convenient for them. It's only oh, look at this. They're doing this to this, that. It's always to prove a point. It's never just let's bring it up just to bring it up, like how many of us might bring it up just to talk about it. And funny enough, Jimmy Carter later was dethroned and was no longer the president of the United States by the year 1981. He lost the entire election to Ronald Reagan, and Ronald Reagan completely destroyed him in the polls. Once he got out of office, that's when Iran let all the hostages go. And of course, Iran had a lot of demands. They said, our demands are this. We don't want you guys to try to retaliate on us. We want peace, and we want you guys to stay out of our fucking business and to agree to stop meddling in shit. They also asked and requested for the royal family to come back. And of course, the royal family was not given over to them. They also requested for their foreign assets to be unfrozen because, as we all know, America punished them for this and froze their assets. And they even put sanctions on them, which basically prevented a lot of countries from trading with them. And a lot of countries that had alliances of America refused to do business with them. So their assets were frozen. People couldn't get paid. Businesses couldn't profit. And this affected the country negatively. The royal family, of course, haven't even been able to go to Iran peacefully because of all the conflict and issues that have gone on throughout the years.
2,000 years later.
Now, it's so funny because back then, they were really uplifting this guy, Khamenei, lifting him up, showing him mad love. And now, years later, the new generation don't like him at all. They feel like he's the reason why the entire country is forced to be Muslim, where women have to forcibly have their entire head covered. The entire country is ran by religious clerics who basically try to impose religious beliefs on the entire country, where they don't even have the freedom to even walk around without their heads being covered. Women cannot wear bikinis. Women cannot wear bras and like panties at the beach. They can't wear that kind of stuff. You go to the beach, women need to be wearing hijabs. Like if you go inside the water, you still need to wear your hijab. If you go inside the water, your ass needs to be wearing pants. Women need to be wearing long pants or floaty pants or beach wear pants in order to be in the water. If you're not wearing pants in the water, you will go to jail and you will get in a lot of trouble.
The people of Iran, and we are here to say thank you to President Trump, thank you to Bibi Netanyahu, and whoever support people of Iran.
Here's how Iranians are celebrating today.
Men can't have earrings, women can't have tattoos, and all types of crazy shit like that. And it's crazy how the very same man they uplifted to lead their country to freedom and full independence ended up oppressing and being labeled a dictator by his own community that uplifted him back then.
Why should they? I mean, in our prisons at the time of Savak, tens of thousands of our most brilliant youngsters were kept in the dungeons and tortured. Most brilliant and most intelligent of our young people, and the youngest. And so, can you compare that to this?
The confrontation with America has rekindled the Islamic passions that destroyed the Shah.
So of course I understood where they were coming from, but let's be real for a second. They used black people as a political pawn to prove a point. They essentially wanted to prove, this is about America imperialism. This is about them meddling in our business. This is about American, not caring about basic human rights. So we're going to release people who already have, issues with their own human rights. It was basically to send a message and to prove a point. And they used black people as a political tool. And it worked because here we are 45 years later talking about it. So people have this mindset where they think, they stand in allegiance of black people and much more.
Shout out to Iran again, man. You heard me? Hey, listen, when y'all show up like heroes and y'all actually release the black soldiers and then keep the white T1s, I ain't got nothing but respect for y'all, man. Hey, listen, I love what this war and everything is doing for people's conscience.
This idea that, they think we cool and they think black Americans are cool. They think we're cool. Like, we don't got to worry. If you're American, you might have a problem because let's be real, as they say in the hood, a bullet don't got no name on it. A missile don't have a name on it. Wherever it lands is where it lands. You might get seen differently if you're a black person going to Iran because I'll never forget one time I was in an Uber and my Uber driver was an Iranian man. And he was looking at me through the rearview mirror. We were having a basic conversation. And I told him, oh my God, I would love to go to Iran because Iran is one of the most beautiful countries I have ever fucking seen on the internet. It's the most beautiful country ever. In spite of their laws and their segregation, and they got segregated beaches, keeping women and men divided. Fun fact, Iran is still a very beautiful country with a lot of beautiful natural agriculture and landscapes. And I would love to still visit to this day. And I remember he looked at me and he said, you want to go to Iran? I said, yeah. And he looked at me and said, through the rearview mirror, it's different for you. You are a black American. They'll see you as a victim. I said, really? He's like, yeah, so you'd probably be fine. And I never understood when he said that to me many years ago until now. They only will give a fuck about the cause and black culture when it benefits them. They will never live in your neighborhood when it's time to benefit politically and socially. Everyone is obsessed with the cause and is with the shits. But that's all I gotta say on that. That's that for this entire video. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Give your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. And yeah, that's that. Troyce out this bitch. Sometimes love comes around and it knocks you out and it knocks you down. knocks you down. Sometimes love comes around and it knocks you down. Just get back up when it knocks you down. Knocks you down.